A cleaning woman named Elena Reyes handed him a small silver necklace, one she said didn't belong in his suite, but belonged to someone who never left. Inside the pendant, a photo, a name, and a truth so devastating. He called off the wedding within 48 hours. She found it wedged behind the mirror, a silver chain, a locket, and a name she hadn't heard in years. The necklace didn't belong to her, but it didn't belong to him either. And when she handed it over, everything began to unravel. 10:12 a.m. Holloway Grand Hotel, Suite 1903. Elena Reyes ran her cloth across the frame of the full-length mirror, pausing as the rag caught on a rough corner. She stepped closer, squinting. There, wedged behind the edge of the wooden molding, was a thin glint of metal. She tugged gently. Dust spilled. Out slid a small silver necklace. Delicate, untarnished, forgotten. The locket was oval-shaped. Ornate but simple. A woman's necklace. Inside, a faded photo of a young woman smiling. And an engraving. L.W. Elena stared at it, motionless. She hadn't seen those initials in 5 years. 10:47 a.m., downstairs service hallway. She held the necklace tightly in her palm as she clocked out for her break. Other staff passed her, joking, gossiping. But Elena's mind was elsewhere. She remembered that suite. She remembered that night. And she remembered the girl, Lena Wyatt. 11:05 a.m., news update in the staff lounge. A muted television ran local news. The caption read, "Celebrity CEO James Holloway to marry Senator's daughter. Exclusive ceremony this weekend." Elena looked up and there he was. James Holloway. Tall, sharp suit, perfect teeth. He was staying at the hotel today, preparing for a pre-wedding PR event in one of the conference salons. She clenched her jaw. What would Lena think of all this? 11:44 a.m. Elena waits outside. Suite 1903. She waited until the assistant stepped out. Knocked once. He opened the door himself. James Holloway. Realer in person. Colder. She nodded politely. "Mr. Holloway. Housekeeping. I found something. I think it was left in the room." He raised an eyebrow. "I didn't lose anything." She reached into her pocket and held out the necklace. He glanced at it, then froze. He didn't take it immediately. Instead, his expression shifted just slightly. A flicker. Recognition. No, something else. "Where did you find that?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she said, "It doesn't belong to you, but I think you need to see it anyway." Then she placed it in his palm and left. 12:12 p.m. Holloway's private office next to Ballroom C. James stared at the necklace under the sterile light of the dressing mirror. He opened the locket again. The initials L.W. The face vaguely familiar. The memory just out of reach. He opened his phone, toggled his encrypted contacts. Miles. "I need a private trace on a name. Lena Wyatt." No questions asked. 1:06 p.m., staff elevator, Elena alone. Elena rode the service lift down to sublevel B. She leaned against the wall, closed her eyes. She hadn't thought of Lena in years. She'd buried it, like everyone else. But when she saw that necklace, it all came rushing back. The crying, the hallway, the closed doors. She pulled out her phone, typed one line into her notes app. If he remembers her, he'll know the wedding is a lie. 2:22 p.m., Vance Security Holdings Background Check Division. Miles Keller leaned back in his chair, watching a progress bar finish scanning an archived employee database. He narrowed his eyes. Lena Wyatt, former junior financial analyst, hired 6 years ago, missing 5 years ago, status resigned, no forwarding info. But there was something else. A sealed HR file. Access restricted. Legal authorization only. Miles raised an eyebrow and flagged it. 3:03 p.m. James opens an old email draft. He searched his archived inbox using the initials LW nothing. Then he tried his father's account inherited when the old man passed. One result. An unsent draft with the subject line, "You're not supposed to be in that wing." The message was blank. No recipient. Just a timestamp 3:44 a.m. 5 years ago. And an attachment Wyatt disk txt locked password protected. James whispered to himself, "Who were you?" The necklace was small, but it carried a name too big to forget, and a silence too heavy to ignore. Now that it was back in his hands, nothing about this wedding would be the same. A necklace forgotten, a name erased, but the system didn't lose her. It hid her. And now that James Holloway had seen it, the truth was clawing its way back. 7:45 a.m., Holloway Grand Hotel, Presidential Suite. James Holloway sat at the desk overlooking the skyline, the necklace lying beside his coffee cup like a loaded weapon. He opened the locket again. The woman's smile stared back. Innocent. Real. L.W. Lena Wyatt. He still couldn't place her, but something in his gut knew she mattered. Someone didn't want him to remember her. 8:06 a.m., Holloway Analytics Vault Encrypted Access Terminal. James used his inherited login from his late father to access the W1 Secure Archive, the system his father kept outside the company's main servers. The password prompt blinked. Enter phrase for Wyatt disk txt. He tried Lena Wyatt. Denied. Tried backroom. Denied. Finally, he typed what Elena said. Not yours. Access granted. The file opened a single line. She was here. You didn't see her, but I did. Followed by a folder of encrypted documents labeled HR Incident 514W, internal only, final. 8:22 a.m., Miles Keller reports back. Miles called. You were right to ask. Lena Wyatt was a junior analyst. Finance, promoted fast. And James asked. She filed an internal complaint, sealed at the board level. Only one other name attached, Graham Monroe. James froze. Senator Monroe Miles confirmed. Before he went to D.C., he was still listed as general counsel for Monroe Holloway Industries. Looks like he personally shut the case down. 9:00 a.m. Charlotte enters. James's fiancée. Charlotte Monroe arrived at the suite with her stylists. She kissed his cheek, noticed the open laptop. Working again, she smiled. Even on wedding week, James closed it fast, just reviewing speeches. She held up a sample bow tie, navy or white. He glanced at her, distracted. Surprise me. 10:10 a.m. Elena breaks protocol. Elena waited until her floor manager left the break room. Then she accessed the service file log. She searched for Lena Wyatt. The result came back, restricted file, removed from schedule history. But one note remained. Guest escorted from floor 19, March 22nd. No incident report filed. That was the last time Elena had seen her leaving in tears. 11:30 a.m. James rereads. The sealed memo. One memo inside the Wyatt archive stopped him cold. A redacted incident summary with this line, allegation private confrontation between Lena Wyatt and senior executive. Outcome voluntary resignation. No further inquiry recommended by legal G. Monroe. Voluntary. Then why was she crying that night? Why had she vanished? 1:00 p.m. Senator Monroe calls. James's phone buzzed. Sen. Graham Monroe. He answered. James, I hope you're getting some rest. Cameras are brutal if you look tired on wedding day. James hesitated. Did you know a woman named Lena Wyatt? The line paused. Then Monroe replied, smooth as silk, vaguely. Worked in finance. She left years ago. You signed the order to seal her complaint. Monroe's voice tightened. James, you're a smart man, and I know your father raised you to stay focused. Let the past rest. 1:33 p.m. The reminder. After the call, James opened the locket one more time. The smile, the initials, and something new, a detail he hadn't noticed. Behind the photo, pressed faintly into the backing, was a stamp, a date. 3/22, 5 years ago, the day she disappeared. Behind every powerful man is a bigger shadow. And behind Senator Graham Monroe was a silence measured in ruined lives. James Holloway thought he was marrying into a legacy, but the deeper he dug, the more he realized he was tying himself to a cover-up. 7:12 a.m., Holloway Executive Tower, 48th floor. James Holloway arrived early alone before staff. He entered his private office, closed the blinds, and opened his father's archive again. Folder HR Incident, 514W Subject, Wyatt Lena. He scrolled through the sealed documents, a single-page resignation. No reason listed, no exit interview, no forwarding address. But embedded in the file metadata, revised by G. Monroe admin. Final approval. C. Holloway. His father and Graham Monroe. His bloodline and his future father-in-law. 8:04 a.m., Senator Monroe's office, private call. Senator Graham Monroe stood in a Capitol Hill conference room flanked by 2 aides. He took the call from James in a lower register. James, son, you don't want to walk into this. Let me make that clear. James's voice was calm. I'm not asking for permission. I'm asking for the truth. Then I'll give it to you straight. Lena was a mistake. She got too close, then got erratic. Your father and I protected the company from a scandal. You mean you buried her? A pause. No, we protected the brand. That's what men in our position do. 9:17 a.m. Charlotte feels the distance. Charlotte Monroe stood outside the bridal fitting room. Her friends laughed. Her mother scolded a florist over text. But Charlotte's eyes were elsewhere on her phone, staring at James's last reply. Busy. Later. He had been distant for 2 days. Cold. Not cruel, just off. She tucked the phone away, felt her stomach turn. 10:10 a.m. Elena visits the old records office. Back at the hotel. Elena Reyes approached her old friend in records, Danny, and asked him quietly, "Do we still keep backup guest logs?" Danny frowned. Not from that long ago. Most stuff gets wiped every 18 months unless legal flags it. Was floor 19 flagged? He shook his head. But if someone did, they'd need executive override. Elena's pulse ticked. 10:43 a.m. Miles sends an internal map. Miles Keller, digging deeper from off-site, sent James an annotated PDF, a flowchart of 514W's path through the system. It showed how Lena Wyatt's complaint was logged by HR, flagged, escalated, then rerouted through legal, then locked down by Monroe and Charles Holloway under a code marked Strategic Image Containment, SIC. James stared at the screen. Containment, he muttered. Not resolution, not investigation, just silence. 12:03 p.m. Monroe's message escalates. Another call. This time, no pleasantries. You dig further, Monroe said, I walk. The funding for Holloway's aerospace expansion. Gone. Your name will rot in Congress like your father's did in silence. You want to be a man of principle? Be poor while you do it. James stared at the speakerphone, jaw set. I'm not afraid of losing what you gave me, he said. I'm afraid of keeping what she lost. 2:15 p.m. Charlotte sees the necklace. Back at the hotel suite. Charlotte arrived unexpectedly while James was out. She found the necklace on his desk beside his laptop. She opened it, saw the face, the initials, and the tab on his screen labeled HR 514W, Wyatt Lena sealed. Some truths don't fade with time. They wait buried under silence until someone brave enough chooses to speak. Elena Reyes saw what no one else did, and now she was ready to tell him. 6:55 a.m., Holloway Grand Hotel, break room sublevel. Elena Reyes sat with her coffee untouched. She stared at the folded paper in her hands, a copied photo of Lena Wyatt's staff ID once posted on the internal bulletin board. Long gone now. She had kept it, quietly, all these years. 7:30 a.m. A message to James. Elena sent a short text to a hidden email address Miles had created for her. If he really wants to know what happened, meet me. After close. Rooftop service stairwell. 9 p.m. 9:02 p.m. Rooftop stairwell. Holloway Grand. James arrived alone. Elena stood by the railing, her arms folded. She didn't look scared. She looked tired. He spoke first. I need to know what happened to her. 9:06 p.m. Elena begins. Lena was smart, Elena said. Quiet, but not afraid to speak when it mattered. She had worked late shifts, usually alone. One night, Elena recalled she saw Lena leave Charles Holloway's executive office on the 19th floor, eyes red, cheeks wet, clutching her coat. I asked if she was okay. She didn't answer. She just said, he didn't listen. But he knows now. 9:15 p.m. What came after? The next morning, Lena was gone. Elena tried asking about her. No one had answers. No one cared. Then the whispers started, rumors of misconduct, policy violations. She was erased, Elena said. Not just fired, deleted. From schedules, from housing. Even her keycard logs disappeared. 9:27 p.m. Why Elena stayed silent? James asked. Why didn't you report it? Elena hesitated. Because I'm a cleaning woman, Mr. Holloway. No badge, no power. They don't hear me unless I make the beds too loudly. Her voice cracked. I kept the necklace because it was the only proof she existed. I was afraid. But when I saw you on TV smiling with Monroe's daughter, I knew I couldn't keep it anymore. 9:39 p.m. James learns what his father did. She said something else that night, Elena added. He let it happen. He told me to be quiet. She meant your father. James froze. His chest tightened. Everything inside him twisted. 9:48 p.m. A promise. James looked at Elena and said quietly, I can't undo what they did, but I can make sure the world hears it. She handed him the last thing she had, a folded receipt from 5 years ago, signed by Lena, time-stamped the night she disappeared. Hotel exit log, unaltered. You want to remember her, Elena said. Then don't marry the silence. 10:12 p.m. Charlotte waits. Back in the hotel suite. Charlotte waited for James. The necklace was gone from the desk. His laptop was locked. But her mind had already crossed the line. Lena Wyatt, she whispered aloud. What did you do to her? The truth was never lost. It was hidden, sealed behind loyalty power and digital locks. But James Holloway had the key now, and what he was about to find would turn the woman he was about to marry into the daughter of the man who destroyed everything. 6:08 a.m. Holloway Corporate Archive Vault. James Holloway stood alone in the temperature-controlled sublevel beneath the Holloway Tower. Only 4 people in the company had access to this archive. He swiped his late father's executive card. The steel door unlocked with a hiss. The air was cold. The silence heavier than usual. He walked past rows of locked drawers until he reached the section labeled Discretionary Legal Settlements, 2014-2018. 6:17 a.m. File 514W, inside a black folder. Lena Wyatt's HR complaint. witness statements, 2 names redacted, an unsigned settlement agreement, 1 postscript memo written in his father's handwriting, removed from HRQ. G. Monroe will close it. 6:33 a.m. The video. In the back of the folder sat a flash drive labeled Wyatt, Incident Room 19B, internal only. James plugged it into a secure laptop. Footage loaded Lena pacing inside a glass-walled executive office. Across from her unseen off-camera, a man's voice. "You knew this would go nowhere. You lied to me. You said I could speak." Her voice broke. "You said this company protects people. You said you would listen." She stood furious. "You lied." The timestamp read March 22, 2018, 2:14 a.m. 6:42 a.m. Voice match confirmed. Miles ran an analysis of the voice in the video. His message came through encrypted text, match 98.7% confidence. Senator Graham Monroe pre-office. Recording made at Holloway HQ. 7:10 a.m. Charlotte confronts. James Charlotte appeared in the doorway of the suite, hair half-curled wedding binder in her hand. "You weren't in bed last night." James turned. "I was working." She noticed the laptop, the folder, and then on the table the flash drive. "Who was Lena Wyatt?" she asked. James paused. "Too long." Charlotte's face hardened. "I found the necklace." 7:15 a.m. The truth between them. James didn't deny it. "I think your father covered up something. I think my father helped, and I think Lena paid the price." Charlotte's voice shook. "My father's not a criminal," James replied gently. "Then help me prove he isn't. But if he is, you deserve to know." 9:01 a.m. Senator Monroe's office. Monroe read the alert from his legal team, unauthorized file access from Holloway archive. 5:14 W. He closed the message, dialed a number. "Make the call," he said. "If Holloway breaks the agreement, we bury him." 9:30 a.m. James's last call to Elena. James called Elena. "I have the video, the memo, the settlement, all of it." "What are you going to do?" she asked. "I'm going to stop pretending this wedding is real, and I'm going to say her name out loud finally." The flowers were ordered. The press was waiting. The dress was fitted. And none of it could stop the storm building in James Holloway's chest. Because every smile he gave now felt rehearsed, and every step toward the altar was a step away from the truth. 8:00 a.m. Monroe Estate, Long Island. Wedding rehearsal. The estate was immaculate. Rows of chairs had already been set. Staff moved quietly. Florists rehearsed placements. Drones hovered for preview shots. Charlotte stood in front of a wide mirror veil draped on one side. Her friends laughed. Her mother gave orders. And James, he wasn't there. 8:15 a.m. Midtown Manhattan, James's office. James sat in his private suite, blinds drawn. The wedding press release draft blinked on his screen. Power and legacy unite as the Holloway and Monroe families come together. He deleted the sentence, then closed the laptop. His desk held 2 things: a copy of Lena Wyatt's resignation letter and the locket. 9:42 a.m. Flashback. 5 years ago, James had been home late that night. He remembered a woman in the elevator, young, nervous, clutching a folder. He barely looked at her. She had looked up once, eyes red. He hadn't asked if she was okay. That woman was Lena Wyatt. He never saw her again. Until the locket. 10:03 a.m. Charlotte's private doubt. In the bridal suite, Charlotte paced alone. She opened her phone, typed Lena Wyatt plus Holloway. Nothing useful. Everything had been scrubbed. But she found one archived HR complaint buried in a legal forum, an anonymous whistleblower at Holloway Industries, dated March 22, 2018. She stared at the screen. Something inside her sank. 11:10 a.m. Senator Monroe makes his move. Monroe pulled James aside in the estate library. "You need to pull yourself together," the senator said. "This marriage stabilizes your company. It propels your image. It protects you from legacy audits. You don't get to spiral now." James stayed silent, so Monroe leaned in. "Don't make me protect you from yourself." 12:30 p.m. The letter. James returned to his apartment and began writing by hand. "To Charlotte, I wanted to be the man you deserved, but I can't marry you while I carry this lie. I didn't see Lena Wyatt when I should have. My father and your father ensured she'd be forgotten. This wedding is built on silence, and I can't walk into it without remembering the woman no one stood up for." He stopped writing, folded the letter, slipped it into the locket box. 1:40 p.m. Elena receives a call. A private delivery arrived at Elena's apartment. A black envelope. Inside, "Thank you for remembering her. Her name will be known. J." She opened the second flap. Inside, a check made out to the Lena Wyatt Foundation in process. 3:00 p.m. Final wedding rehearsal. James didn't show. The press caught on. Tabloids swirled. But Charlotte just stood at the altar, mock-up bouquet in hand, staring at the breeze blowing through the trees. She looked down at the locket she'd kept in her purse, opened it, held it, and said softly, "I would have left too." Lena Wyatt's story had a timeline, but no ending, until someone who wasn't supposed to be watching captured the moment everything changed. And now the truth had a face, a location, and a man standing beside her in the dark. 6:45 a.m. Brooklyn, apartment of Celia Voss. Celia Voss, a freelance photographer, sipped burnt coffee as she reviewed old backup drives from her photojournalism days. She wasn't looking for trouble. She was cleaning, until she found a folder labeled Holloway Tower, Exec Gala, 2018, inside 122 untouched raw photos. The night Lena Wyatt disappeared. 7:12 a.m. The face returns. She clicked through ballroom shots, glasses, smiles, power suits, then one photo, a woman in a slate gray dress not posing, walking fast, eyes red, Lena Wyatt. The timestamp, 10:48 p.m., March 21st, 2018, and behind her, half out of frame, Graham Monroe. 7:45 a.m. Celia texts. Elena. "Are you still with the hotel? I think I found something about that girl, the one you said vanished." She attached the image. Elena's heart stopped. 8:03 a.m. Elena calls. James. She found proof, Elena whispered. "Photos of Lena with your future father-in-law." James. "Are they clear?" "Yes." He paused, then said, "Tell her I'm coming. Today." 9:25 a.m. Celia's living room. Celia projected the images onto her wall. James sat in silence, hands clasped. Then came the one that changed everything. Photo number 87. Lena standing outside the glass corridor of the executive wing, confronting someone. Zoomed in, the figure's wrist is visible. Around it, Lena's necklace. 9:43 a.m. Timeline assembled. James scribbled notes on a whiteboard. March 21st, 2018, 10:48 p.m. Lena photographed at gala. March 22nd, 2018, 2:14 a.m. Video confrontation audio match Monroe. March 22nd, 2018, 3:22 a.m. Lena's hotel exit logged. March 22nd, 2018, 3:41 a.m. HR incident file locked. 10:17 a.m. Monroe makes a preemptive move. Monroe's team leaks a statement. We stand by the integrity of our family during this week of celebration. Any attempt to smear our name will be addressed legally. The media swarms. Rumors leak wedding delay. Groom cold feet. Old scandal resurfacing. 11:00 a.m. Miles confirms chain of custody. Miles texts James images and timestamps match verified server data. The necklace confirms contact. Monroe can't explain this away. James replies, "Then we end it. All of it." 12:30 p.m. Charlotte's realization. Charlotte in her private dressing room stares at a photo Elena sent her Lena and her father in the corridor. She doesn't cry. She doesn't yell. She simply whispers, "He used me." Then she folds the photo, puts it in her clutch, and begins removing the engagement ring. The wedding was no longer a celebration. It was a negotiation, a transaction, a public lie held together by silence. But now the groom had seen too much, and the man standing across from him was the one who buried the bride before she ever said yes. 6:40 a.m. Holloway Grand Hotel, private conference room. James Holloway waited alone, dressed in a gray suit, no tie. He'd requested the meeting himself. Senator Graham Monroe arrived flanked by two aides, both dismissed with a nod. The door shut behind them. James didn't stand. "Sit," he said. Monroe smirked. "Don't forget who taught you that tone." 6:43 a.m. The evidence. James dropped the flash drive on the table. The video, the photo, the sealed complaint. And now Charlotte knows too. Monroe's smile faded. He didn't reach for the drive. He reached for his words. "She loved you, James. You think throwing this away will help anyone?" 6:47 a.m. The threat. "If you cancel this wedding," Monroe said, "you kill your company, your reputation, everything you've rebuilt since your father died." He leaned in, voice lower. "Your name will rot in headlines, and I'll make sure no boardroom in this country touches you again." James met his gaze. "Then I'd rather lose everything than be the man who stayed quiet." 7:15 a.m. Charlotte's goodbye. Charlotte waited in the suite, eyes red but dry. James entered. She didn't speak. She simply held out her hand, the engagement ring resting in her palm. He didn't protest. Instead, he whispered, "I never wanted to lie to you, but I did, by pretending I didn't know who I was marrying into." She nodded. "I deserved the truth." And so did she. They hugged not as lovers, but as witnesses of what could have been. 8:00 a.m. Elena at the hotel lobby. Elena watched the morning press gather. Rumors swirled, flashes popped. Then she spotted a courier carrying a black envelope toward the media tent. Inside, a statement, typed, signed, from James Holloway. 8:12 a.m. Press statement released. There will be no wedding. There will be no merger of families. And there will be no further silence regarding the incident involving Lena Wyatt. I was blind. Now I'm not. I choose the truth, even if it costs me everything. 8:45 a.m. Monroe retreats. The senator's team rushed to issue a response, but reporters were already publishing side-by-side timelines of Lena's disappearance, Charlotte's withdrawal, and Holloway's confession. One headline read, "The necklace that broke the wedding." 9:10 a.m. James returns to where it began. He stood once more outside Suite 1903 at the Holloway Grand. Elena joined him. They opened the door together. The room hadn't changed, but now he had. He placed the locket on the nightstand. "No more hiding," he said. The invitations had been sent. The champagne chilled. The future carved into marble. But James Holloway had made his choice. And it wasn't silence. It wasn't legacy. It was truth. 7:12 a.m., Midtown Manhattan, Holloway HQ. James walked through the main doors of his company for the last time as CEO. Every eye followed him, executives who once smiled with pride, assistants who whispered security, who pretended not to stare. He entered the elevator alone. Pressed, 51, 7:18 a.m., executive floor conference room. The boardroom buzzed with tension. Some had already heard. Others were still in disbelief. James placed the resignation folder on the glass table. "I'm stepping down," he said, effective immediately. A board member leaned forward. Because of a girl who worked here 5 years ago, James didn't flinch. Because of a lie that's been here a lot longer than that. 7:44 a.m. Charlotte's quiet departure. No press conference, no wedding dress. Charlotte Monroe boarded a private jet with her mother away from cameras. She clutched the necklace in her coat pocket. Not the ring, not the letter, just the necklace, the one that changed everything. 8:02 a.m., James Records. His message. In a small room with one camera, James sat before a plain backdrop. He spoke clearly. "My name is James Holloway. I was the CEO of Holloway Industries, and I failed to see what was right in front of me." He told Lena's story, Elena's courage, Charlotte's strength, and his own shame. He ended with "Lena Wyatt should have been heard, so I'm making sure her name is never forgotten again." 8:45 a.m. The video goes live. Within the hour it trended globally. Former CEO cancels wedding, exposes cover-up. Justice for Lena. The necklace truth articles. Threads. Reactions. Corporate watchdogs launched investigations. Other whistleblowers came forward anonymously. 9:30 a.m. Senator Monroe faces fallout. A congressional aide leaked internal communications between Monroe and Holloway Sr. The whispers turned into headlines. Monroe pressured exec to seal complaint ethics inquiry, opened ahead of election year. Monroe denied it all, but the photograph, the audio, and the complaint were public now. 10:00 a.m. Elena walks into the spotlight. Reporters crowded outside the hotel. Elena Reyes, wearing her old staff badge, stood calmly. She didn't cry. She simply said, "I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who didn't forget. Lena deserved better. Now she'll have it." 11:12 a.m. Boardroom plaque removed. At Holloway HQ, a maintenance crew quietly removed the golden plaque from the CEO's door. James Holloway's name scratched free. In its place, a blank space, and across the hallway, a temporary marker went up beside the HR office, Lena Wyatt Workplace Ethics Center, in formation. The wedding never happened, but the reckoning did. She was just a name in a sealed file until a necklace pulled her back into the world. And now the company that erased her was being rebuilt in her name. 7:02 a.m., downtown Manhattan, temporary office space. James Holloway stood by a window overlooking the city skyline, not from a boardroom, but from a borrowed desk in a shared civic workspace. He was no longer a CEO, but for the first time in years, he was something else awake. On the wall behind him hung a modest framed print, the Lena Wyatt Foundation, Workplace Integrity, Whistleblower Protection, Ethical Reform. 8:15 a.m. The first meeting. Elena Reyes entered the new space in jeans and a navy cardigan, holding 2 coffees. "You're early," James said. "You're not in a corner office anymore." She smiled. "No reason to be late." They sat at a folding table with a whiteboard behind them, discussing outreach partnerships and what came next. "I want this to be more than a name," Elena said. "I want it to mean change." James nodded. She already changed me. 9:01 a.m. The press still chases news vans circled the building hoping for a second viral speech. But the foundation said nothing flashy. No cameras, no slogans. Just their new mission statement. Accountability begins with visibility, and justice begins when someone refuses to stay quiet. 10:32 a.m. The hotel suite reborn. Back at Suite 1903 of the Holloway Grand, the room had been renovated. No more dark wood paneling. No more closed doors. It now served as a dedicated memorial workspace for the Lena Wyatt Center's on-site ethics program. Employees passed by the brass plaque at the door. This room is dedicated to the ones we lost in silence. 11:45 a.m. The necklace's final stop. James and Elena stood together at Greenstone Cemetery outside a modest headstone. Lena Wyatt, 1992-2018. She spoke. We heard. Elena knelt beside the stone, opening a small wooden box. Inside the silver locket. She placed it gently on the grave. She deserved to be more than a footnote, Elena said. She is James replied. 12:10 p.m. Charlotte's letter. Back in a quiet cafe upstate, Charlotte Monroe sat alone reading a letter addressed in James's handwriting. It was never mailed. Inside he had written, I wish I had asked more questions sooner. You deserved honesty, not inheritance. And Lena deserved both. She folded it slowly, then took out the locket she'd kept. After a moment's pause, she placed it in the mailbox marked Return to Sender. 3:45 p.m. Miles joins the team. Miles Chung entered the Lena Wyatt Foundation office, laptop in hand. Ready to write the audit protocols, he asked. Only if you're ready to design a system that holds people like me accountable too, James replied. Miles grinned. That's the idea. 4:30 p.m. Final light. As sunset poured golden light into the office, James looked around. No power suits, no titles, no curated press releases, just people doing the quiet work of justice. He whispered, You were right, Lena. You just needed someone to finally listen. She wasn't a board member. She wasn't an executive. She wasn't even remembered. But in the end, it was a cleaning woman's courage and a necklace forgotten behind a mirror that turned a wedding into a reckoning and a lost name into a legacy.